Mayon Volcano is placed on alert level 3 with the Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology, warning that there is now an increased tendency towards a hazardous eruption. In a bulletin, Phivolcs explains that Mayon is exhibiting magmatic eruption of a summit lava dome with increased chances of lava flows and hazardous pyroclastic density current affecting the upper to middle slopes of the volcano and of potential explosive activity within weeks or even days. Phivolcs also notes an increase in the number and volume of rockfall events at the volcano since the alert level status at the volcano was raised from alert level 1 to alert level 2 on Monday, June 5. Residents in Albay share on social media photos and videos of the situation there. Just this morning, residents captured the continuous activity near the crater of the volcano. Joining us tonight to discuss this development is Maria Antonia Bornas, Chief Science Research Specialist of DOST Phivolcs. Ms. Bornas, good evening.
Good evening po, sir.
Can you explain why the Phivolcs elevated the alert level over at Mayon Volcano from alert level 2 to 3? What were the indicators that Phivolcs observed that eventually led to this call?
Okay, so we have been experiencing a steep increase in the incidence of rockfall since the start of June, but there was a short increase yesterday to 98 rockfall events. These rockfall events, that was yesterday until this morning pala. And then the rockfall events were followed by the generation of pyroclastic density currents, or PDCs. Our fellow Albayanos call this phenomena uson. No? So these are the most lethal of all volcanic hazards, especially from tall stratovolcanoes like Mayon. And this indicates that there is already very highly gassed magma that is being delivered to the top of the crater, to the dome. So the dome that was initially occupying the crater is being pushed out, and that's why it's collapsing and producing all of this rockfall. So we already have new material that has been that is being extruded onto the floor of the crater. So technically, that is already an eruption, and even as we speak, we already have 6 pyroclastic density currents occurring on 3 different gullies of the volcano. These are on the east, the southeast, and south of the volcano, and they have already progressed to a little over 2 kilometers from the summit crater.
Ma'am, in simplest terms, what does it mean when we place a volcano on alert level 3? It says here that there is increased tendency towards a hazardous eruption. It also says here that we might expect potential explosive activity within weeks or even days. So can you elaborate on that?
Okay, so at alert level 3, it means that for volcanoes mostly, there is already some form of low-level eruption occurring at the summit or at the vent of the volcano. And in the case of Mayon, that is typically a dome eruption or a lava flow eruption taking place at the volcano. This means that in a few days, probably we will see a progression of activity. We may see an increase in the rate of material coming out of the volcano, so we might see longer lava flows. And then if we have an increase in the volcanic gas output of the volcano, we will see some fountaining events. And any increase in volcanic gas from the volcano, especially if it is a magnitude of order increase, that would certainly indicate to us that there is the chance of explosive eruption taking place, because explosive eruptions in volcanoes are driven by magmatic gas.
But are these different from what we usually see when a volcano explodes? You know, the lava flow and so on.
So Mayon is a kind of volcano whose behavior actually shifts. It shifts from very quiet effusing or putting out of lava flows to explosive eruption. So it can shift in either case. So in most eruptions of Mayon, the volcano displays both of these behaviors. So when we see this kind of activity from Mayon now, where it is growing a dome, we already know that at some point it will progress into lava flows, and that at some point there is a possibility of the activity escalating to lava fountaining and further explosions. So that means there will be more hazardous uh, flows produced from the eruption, and that will actually endanger more people around the volcano. So at alert level 3 in Mayon, and in all other monitored volcanoes of the Philippines, alert level 3 means that the areas of highest danger around the volcano have to be evacuated. They are recommended for evacuation.
Ma'am, I think the best way for us to explain what's happening here at Mayon Volcano is by looking at the photos and the videos we are receiving from the field, right? So we received photos and videos from residents of Albay. I don't know if you can see that on your screen, but if you can see in these photos, there seems to be a glow at the crater of the volcano. Another photo shows smoke coming out. So can you explain what's happening in these photos?
Okay. For this photo right here, where you can see this is ash. This is an ash cloud, actually from a pyroclastic density current. The very first one that occurred today. This is at 6:18 in the morning. So what we can see is the ash cloud, and actually the main body of the pyroclastic density current is the base of this cloud, which is following the gully. This shot was taken from the eastern side of the volcano. So we are quite familiar with this, with the appearance of the upper slope. It's on the east side of the volcano. So the other picture, unfortunately, we have been answering queries about this. This is actually not crater glow. If you look at the star field of this photograph, this is a long exposure photo. So, nakaguhit yung star. The stars are forming lines. So, this is a long exposure photograph. And in long exposure photographs, you will see the heat being emanated by the volcano form incandescence. But actually, using the naked eye, there is no such incandescence at this time. We have 5 IP cameras around the volcano, and we have one of these cameras is actually watching the volcano at very close range. So we can actually see the crater. And there is no incandescence actually from the crater of Mayon Volcano. So this is a long exposure photograph. And that is why it looks as if the crater is incandescent. But it's actually not. With the naked eye, you cannot see.
Ma'am, is there a way for us to predict what would happen in the coming days? Of course, we cannot predict the exact how things would exactly unfold, but is there a way for us to at least predict what might happen in order for our kababayans over there in Albay to prepare?
Okay, we have to look at the monitoring data day to day, hour to hour, because the problem with Mayon Volcano, like many of these similar types of volcano, it is an open vent volcano. What that means is that it actually degasses a lot of its volcanic gas continuously. Every day, around 500 tons per day of volcanic SO2 is emitted by Mayon. And this degassing actually changes its behavior a lot, all the time, such that it's quite difficult to determine what sort of factors will trigger an eruption eventually. Like now, to tell you the truth, we were really frustrated with Mayon today because the sulfur dioxide is quite low. There is practically no volcanic earthquakes. We had 2 today. Yesterday we had none. So it's very difficult to determine what it's going to do next. So in this
Very
case,
unpredictable, it seems.
yes. It's much more difficult to predict the behavior of a volcano that is always erupting versus a volcano that does not frequently erupt. That is much easier to predict. So what we need to do for Mayon is to look at the monitoring parameters all the time. So day to day, we have to assess if the sulfur dioxide or the volcanic gas emission is increasing, or if there are volcanic earthquakes that are making their appearances. We have to locate these volcanic earthquakes and what they mean when they are located at certain levels of the volcanic system. We have to look at our ground deformation monitors to see if the volcano is swelling, at what portion of the volcano is swelling. And we have to look at all of our visual monitors to see what are the surface manifestations of all of these parameters. So we have to look at this on a day-to-day basis, no? And what we can say is, what we can just say is, we already know what to expect if we see certain parameters. For example, we know that explosive eruption might take place if there is a rapid increase in sulfur dioxide content being measured from the volcano. We know that deep magma might facilitate a more explosive eruption if we see ground deformation all over of the entire edifice rather than just portions of it. And by looking at the seismic, by looking at the volcanic earthquakes, what type these are and where they are located, we can probably guess what the volcano will do next. So we have to look at these parameters day to day.
Ma'am, just to wrap this up, what's the advice of Phivolcs for residents living near the volcano?
I think our fellow Albayanos already know, our fellow Bicolanos. They are so much drilled by the frequent eruptions of Mayon Volcano. For those who are living within the 6-kilometer permanent danger zone, I'm pretty sure right now they are being evacuated, if not already evacuated. So just listen to the authorities and pay attention to the rules in the evacuation camps. For those communities that are just outside of the 6-kilometer permanent danger zone, maybe up to the 8-kilometer radius of the volcano, please already prepare for probable or possible evacuation, just in case the condition of the volcano worsens or deteriorates. So we need to be prepared for evacuation. Also, it would be really helpful if our citizens stop, if we avoid spreading fake news. We've seen some of it already, in the social media. So this kind of fake news do not help. They tend to spread panic, and a huge part of our work for monitoring and keeping everyone safe is spent in combating this fake news. No? So let's do our part, cooperate with the authorities, and stop the spread of fake news.
Thank you so much, ma'am. That's Maria Antonia Bornas from Phivolcs.